It's time to turn up the volume as Austrac Motorsport and Duggan Family Hotels bring us the sports sedans from Oran Park Raceway. It's the third round of the New South Wales State Championship. Let's take a look at the lineup for race number 2 of the weekend for them. And it's Chris Jackson off pole, courtesy of his win in race 1. Back then to Stephen Shields, McCready, Smith, Peter DeSisto, Leithhead Stevens, Papadopoulos, Pro, Brown, Ald, McKellar, Holt and Viggers off the back of the field. Joining me in commentary is Jeff Bowden. Jeff, strong field of cars and Jackson in form.
Yes, definitely in form. He's come off an engine blow up the meeting before, and reckon he's on fire this time.
Look at McCready down the inside of Jackson here. Can he go on with it? No, Jackson a little bit deeper under brakes, so McCready really forcing the issue as they made their way down to turn 1 here at Oran Park Raceway, the 2.76 kilometres of the GP circuit here. Very undulating, and sports sedans being low to the ground, very stiffly sprung. Do these cars bounce around and slide around on this track? Yeah,
they do. They're probably tippy-toeing around there at the moment because first lap, tyres will be very cold.
We've also got to remember that they've got well over 600 horsepower, some of these front-running V8 6-litre Chevys, so you really got to be careful with that right foot. They come over the bridge now, McCready with Shields behind him. Shields, who did exceptionally well in the first couple of rounds of the championship, actually coming into this third round leading the point score, but finding himself back in third. A little surprising, Jeff.
The Blanche Quality Smash Repairs, Nathan, has just come off his win from Eastern Creek in the last round, and he'll be out to try and do this one again, but these vehicles are always ongoing in development, and he's probably just changed something slightly different. Yeah,
and Jackson, I think, has really found his form. He's pulled quite a number of car lengths in the first lap, which is rather surprising on cold tyres. So Jackson really with the setup at the moment. Here comes Holt now down the inside of Old. This car looks a lot like a Group C car, but I understand isn't really that old.
No, it's only been motivating around for a couple of years. It's had a couple of different transitions. This is the latest. It's a Group C look, and Matthew has a ball in this car.
Old now with a look back round the outside, so starting to wind the car up a little bit. Whoa, I thought he might have been able to go on with it, but didn't. Just decided to get on the brakes, drop in behind him. There's still a lot of laps left to run on this, and I'm sure plenty more chances at that one as they come under the bridge. Shields starting to close the gap a little bit on McCready. You can say good night to Jackson. That gorgeous 96 Camaro is gone, and a bit of smoke from the back of Shields' car there.
Yes, he's having scavenge problems pick up from his oil pump, and it seems to be the only corner on the track that it does it.
Well, it seemed like a fair bit of smoke. Jeff, would that be a problem for him with oil consumption over a number of laps?
No, not necessarily. Not in sports sedan races. They're only sprint races, and there's a big tank in there and holds a lot of oil, and it's just a pickup problem.
So how many laps are coming into the third lap now? How many laps before these tyres on these cars would be up to temperature? Because they are a rather large tyre.
Oh, with the 600 horsepower belting down on them, the rear ones are going to get a lot hotter faster, and I'd say by about now they're coming up to temperature.
So Pro and the Escort back behind Ald at the moment, and here is the battle between Holt and Papadopoulos. That Alfa Romeo coming up onto the main straight gets right out near the wall, and I'm quite impressed with the Alfa Romeo for straight line speed. I would have thought the big thumping V8 might be able to pull around it, but not so as we take the AM Electrical Contractors on board with Jackson. He is a mile out in front as he comes off the bridge now. Doesn't it sound awesome?
It does, yes, Nathan. This car sounds trick, and it's a good 600 horsepower in there, and he's driving it well. Shields
now really putting the pressure on the Rover of McCready. He's just in front of him and is trying his utmost to get past him at the moment. I noticed when the car surges a little bit as he drops a couple of wheels in the dirt, he is really close now, possibly can have a go down under brakes, but the car does seem to lose a bit of power as well, or is it just an optical illusion?
Oh, I think it'd be an optical illusion. I don't think he's probably even aware of it.
So Bathurst on the number plate. Here is a shot of that oil surge. You can see just as it comes out of the little dipper, puff of smoke, and yeah, I guess the car still is under power. He is quite close. 1 lap left to run now. Look at Shields to the outside. Can he do the switchback and get the inside run as they come down now under brakes? No, I think McCready, his car gets off the corners well, doesn't it?
It does very well. That's probably a little bit soft in the setup, and that's probably so he can get the horsepower down to the ground.
Austrac Motorsport and Duggan Family Hotels bringing us round 3 of the New South Wales State Sports Sedan Championship. Jackson has gone. DeSisto getting lapped there at the moment, so DeSisto just off the pace a little bit. There is that surge once again. And McCready, well, I think barring any unfortunate mishap in this final couple of corners, he looks comfortable in second place. come over the dog leg now, and this is really the last shot for Shields, and he's certainly not going to be close enough to it. Also, see McCready a little bit more centred in the racetrack, trying to defend the line. Jackson will get the victory in race number 2 of the weekend. Race 1 of our coverage, back then to Anthony McCready in second place. Stephen Shields will be third, Steve Viggers fourth, Mark Smith fifth, Andrew Leithhead will bring it home in sixth, Stevens in seventh, and Matthew Holt rounds out the 8. We'll have race 2 later on in today's show. Let's go chat with number 2 position in race number 2.
Yeah, no, it was an excellent race. Chris got away from us a little bit in that race, but I had an excellent race with Steve. Hard race and fair. No contact between us, and I really enjoyed it. It was a great race.
Race 2. So the final race of the day for the sports sedans from Oran Park Raceway. It's Austrac Motorsport and Duggan Family Hotels, round 3 of the New South Wales State Championship, as Chris Jackson comes up to claim pole position after that fantastic win in race number 2. He's alongside Anthony McCready, back then to Stephen Shields, Stephen Viggers, Mark Smith, Leithhead, Stevens, Holt, Aldberg, Pro, DeSisto, who had some issues, McKellar, and Papadopoulos, unfortunately failing to finish that one. So hopefully a better showing for him in this final race of the day. Jeff Bowden joins me in commentary. Do you think Shields or McCready's got an answer for Jackson in this one?
Oh, he's on fire this weekend. I don't think so, but you never know. Anything can happen in sports sedan racing.
It's all got a lot to do with the start, I think, as McCready had a look in race number 2. Can he get a better run this time? Also keep your eye on that trick white calibre of Steve Vigers, and well, he actually misses the start deluxe. So put the mocker on him. Have a look at that. He goes from the second row and just goes back so many places. An awesome start there from McCready. He jumps to the race lead.
Yeah, he'll be loving that. He'll try and stay out in front there, but they're going to have to tippy-toe through on the first lap.
I think Jackson just too much horsepower on the start line. Blaze the rear tyres up, and McCready out in front. Can he stay there as Jackson now looms in on the tail of the Rover in front of him? The AM Electrical Contractors car really closing the gap early.
Yes, the AGM Engineering Rover is under full development the whole time. He owns a little business out there in Sydney West, and
see Jackson get on the throttle. The thing just snapped into oversteer for a second. Sorry, the Rover, as a lot of these cars here, constantly being developed.
They are, yeah. AGM Engineering out there in western suburbs of Sydney, they're always constantly developing parts on this car, and then they can offer it to the public. The beauty about sports sedan racing too is being a fairly open category with the development you can do on these cars. A lot of it can be done at home, which certainly helps the budget. Of course, there are those, as Vigers looks up the inside of the dogleg, there are those that can spend big and put some big engines and development and so forth, but you can also cut costs by doing a lot of the development and engineering on these cars yourself. Yeah, exactly right, Nathan. And getting back to Anthony there from AGM, he does help a lot of these races out, as does a lot of other people in this category. There's Papadopoulos, who failed to finish race 2. He's coming back through the field in the Alfa Romeo, but we take the onboard with Jackson, the Martini Fuels entry as well, giving him a fair bit more horsepower here for this round. Looking up the inside of McCready, he's got him. That was the look he was looking for. Under brakes, got a better run underneath the bridge. McCready really left the door wide open. I was quite surprised he didn't play a little bit more defensive there. And back there in third, watching all of this, is Shields, who thinks, come on, guys, why don't you carve it up a bit more? You'll slow each other down, and I'm in there with a chance. That's probably why Anthony didn't mix paint. He doesn't want to take it home and have to repair it. He might be in an engineering shop, but he doesn't want to do the extra work because he's probably got enough of his own on his hands. As Jackson, that really top-looking Camaro, very slippery car, certainly suits the sports sedan style. We look back further in the field, and that looks like the Gemini of Smith, back then to Steve Viggers. So Smith with the turbocharged four-cylinder engine, a little bit different way to go sports sedan racing. I guess traditionally people think big thumping V8s, but you can have these high horsepower, high revving turboed and rotary cars, can't you? Yeah, most definitely, Nathan. Mark's put a lot of work into this car, a lot of development work. He built the chassis himself, and now they're really getting on top of it. So Viggers closing the gap, the Calibra. Look at the straight line speed of that car. Gets on the brakes a little bit. Massive dice going back on here further between a Stevens and Pro, and looks like an ex-V8 supercar in the bunch as well. Yeah, it is. It's the Burke Engineering ex-Richard Mork VS supercar. He's had a few issues during the week that led up to this. He burnt a wiring harness, burnt the Motec. So they've had a lot of hours work. That Stevens car's been around for many years, likes to hike the inside wheels as it cranks its way out of corners, and
Here comes the Burke Engineering number 77 under brakes as, Vickers has got past Smith now as they come off the bridge. Lowell Smith, how close was he to the tail of the Calibra there? Even had a bit of a brake lock-up.
Yeah, Mark doesn't like to put any marks on this car, so he won't do anything silly, I'm sure.
Of course, when you've spent so much time and love putting it together yourself, you certainly don't want to make any damage. As Papadopoulos up the inside of all. Papadopoulos is coming on in a big hurry. He's doing a fantastic job. Smith, does he have an opportunity under brakes? No. Viggers detects the line, gets the better run off the corner, and we've seen the straight line speed of this car. He should pull away comfortably here.
Yeah, definitely. The 6-litre Chevs, nothing to the 2-litre.
Oh, we've had a big one. Sorry to cut you off. Pro and Stevens involved here. That is coming up towards the dog leg. That's a very fast part of the circuit, and there's been a coming together between these two. So a very large moment here at Oran Park Raceway between a couple of the back markers, and you can see they've fired a long way infield as well. Stevens, a bit of damage to the front end. Pro, a lot of damage to the rear of the car. Here it is on replay. We just get the tail of it. Oh, look at the damage to the nose, but how about the back of Pro's car there, Jeff?
Yes, the Promo Racing Escort looks a little bit second-hand there.
Oh, so that is a high speed, and there he is walking over to say, hey, buddy, what happened? They both don't look too displeased. And we actually have a safety car, but funnily enough, it is not for that incident because Papadopoulos has parked the Alfa Romeo around at turn number 4. So we'll have to clear that, and we are back for a restart on board now with Jackson as he comes up onto the main straight. And look at the gap he's already got. Well, I would have thought Shields, who now is up to second, so he's also got past McCready. Shields may have been a little bit closer to Jackson there on the restart.
Yeah, I'd say Chris has just
been a bit cagey. Oh, Shields drops the wheel in the dirt. The tyres are cold, and that is a save and a half. How did he not fire off the racetrack? Well, the cars had been going a little bit slower on the track behind the safety car, and of course, Jeff, that would have just cooled these big tyres down.
It would have. You saw the flex in the wall of that Camaro's rear tyres just then, and on a cool down lap like that, they do cool right down.
They also lose a bit of pressure as well. Here's the replay. Have a look at Shields. Bit of push. He drops the wheel in the dirt, but this is where the save of the lifetime is. Have a look at the understeer. He's on and off the brakes and somehow manages to get that car around the corner. McCready nearly had a chance at it, but I tell you what, I think that was a fantastic drive.
I do too. I think he thought it was going back to Bathurst on a tilt tray.
All now with Holt right on his tail as lap starting to wind down here at Oran Park Raceway, round 3 of the Austrac Motorsport Duggan Family Hotels Sport Sedan Championship. And Holt trying to get past the Commodore of all, but just can't find opportunity as Vickers has spun. So Vickers has spun down the dipper as they lead onto the main straight. That will give Smith a place further up the field, but I don't think anyone's going to catch this man, Jackson.
Yes, the Steve Toy Shop Calibra is only really in its second meeting now, and it's still being developed under its new, what would you say, under its new guidelines from Steve, and he's having a few brake problems. Jackson
starting to drop off the pace a little bit. Shields is coming, but there's not really, I don't think, barring any incident from Jackson, enough time for him to do anything. Oh, Burke! Well, blazes the tyres up, but I don't think that's horsepower. I think you'll find that thing is probably dropping a bit of oil underneath the rear tyres.
I'd say it's dropping a little bit more than a bit. It was all underneath him then.
So Jackson now, who is in front of all of this issue, won't have to worry too much about any fluid on the racetrack, let's hope, comes over the dog leg for the final time. And this will be a clean sheet for Chris Jackson. A fantastic effort. How nice does this car look? The Camaro Sport Sedan up onto the main straight, bags the tyres up, and Chris Jackson greets the checkered flag to make it 3 from 3 here. Back then to Stephen Shields. Fantastic job for him and more valuable points. McCready, Leithhead, Auld, Holt, Viggers, and unfortunately Smith failing to finish this one. Let's take a look at the championship after 3 rounds of competition. And as Stephen Shields still hangs on to the lead on 124 points, back then to Jackson,